During the dark night of the 8th of August, 1963, a Royal Mail train was traveling from Glasgow to London. One carriage of this train contained bags full of cash, which today would amount to approximately £67 million, or 800 crore rupees. The train driver, Jack Mills, was speeding the engine through the darkness of the night when suddenly, a red signal light flashed at a crossing. This was abnormal for the driver because, at that time and place, a red signal made no sense. Regardless, driver Jack Mills immediately applied the brakes and stopped the train on the deserted tracks. For a while, silence prevailed everywhere, but behind this silence was hidden a master plan that was about to carry out the biggest robbery of the century. The Great Train Robbery, in which the train itself was stolen. Viewers, this sounds like a movie story, but in real life, robbers executed a suspenseful plan and looted hundreds of thousands of pounds from Britain's official train. And that too, without firing a single bullet. It all started months ago, when a few well-known criminals of London sat together to execute a new feat. Bruce Reynolds, the mastermind of this plan, started planning an unparalleled heist with a few of his associates. He had secret information about Britain's National Post Service, the Royal Mail. He received this secret information from a senior security officer of the Royal Mail itself, whose name was known to no one. The information was that the train from Glasgow to London had a special carriage called High-Value Packages, or HVP. A huge amount of money was supposed to be in it on a specific day, and they had to rob this very carriage. Bruce Reynolds and his associates were certainly well-known criminals, but they had no experience in robbing a train. Therefore, they included another London gang in this plan who had experience in train robbery. This notorious gang was known as the South Coast Raiders. Gradually, the team grew, and more than 15 people were now involved in this plan. They were determined to rob the government train without firing a bullet. But this was no ordinary robbery, where you just stop the train and loot it. Months of planning went into this. On the 7th of August 1963, at 6:50 p.m., the train departs from Glasgow Central Station for London. It was supposed to reach London's Euston Railway Station at 4 a.m. the next morning. This train had a total of 12 carriages, and 72 post office staff members were also present to sort the mail during the journey. This train was run specifically to drop parcels and mail to different cities, which is why it had to drop parcels at various stations without stopping. Whenever a station arrived, the local post office staff there would use a special. He would hang the bags on elevated racks. When the train passed the platform, it would slow down, and the staff sitting inside would catch those bags using a net. And similarly, the mail bags that they had to drop at that station were dropped on the platform while the train was still moving. Through this process, mail was distributed at different stations without stopping the train. The carriage in which the robbery was to take place was not yet attached to this train. That carriage was safely parked at the Nene Valley Railway Station. This carriage was called HVP, meaning high-value packages, because it mostly contained large amounts of cash that people used to send to other cities via money orders at that time. In 1960, 3 years before this incident, the Post Office Investigation Branch, IB, had instructed to increase the security of HVP carriages by installing a security alarm system in them. And in 1961, these security alarm systems were installed in 3 HVP carriages, and the old carriages that did not have security alarms were kept in reserve. But the day of the robbery was the most important. On that day, the HVP carriages with security alarms were out of service. Therefore, a reserve carriage, M30204M, which had no security system, had to be used. This was a very big tip that the robbers had received from a Royal Mail insider. When the train from Glasgow reached Nene Valley Railway Station, the railway staff connected the HVP carriage at the second position after the engine. This was the first tip the robbers received, but the second tip was even more important. Normally, HVP carriages contained around £300,000 in cash, but because the previous week was a bank holiday weekend, there was nearly £3 million in cash present on the day of the robbery. And this was tip number 2. This means that what happened today was something that perhaps occurs once in years. 12 times more money was being transported, and coincidentally, the HVP carriage with the security alarm was also out of order. But for the robbers, this was no coincidence. They had been planning for this very day for several months. Anyway, the train departed from Nene Valley Station with the HVP carriage. It was now night time, and the 58-year-old train driver, Jack Mills, was speeding the train toward its destination. There, the gang of robbers was also lying in wait in the bushes near the railway track. Their planning was absolutely perfect. Around 3 a.m. on the 8th of August 1963, a member of the robbers' group began tampering with the signal at Sears Crossing. To hide the green light, he stuffed a glove in front of it and used a battery to turn on the red light. Then everyone hid and began waiting for the train. When the train reached Sears Crossing, the driver was quite surprised to see the red light here. Trains are not stopped at crossings, especially a Royal Mail train. Anyway, Jack Mills applied the brakes and stopped the train exactly at the signal. Suddenly, a silence prevailed everywhere. In the meantime, the assistant driver, also known as the second man, got down from the train so that he could contact the signalman using the line-side telephone. When he picked up the telephone at the signal, he found that the line had been cut, which was part of the robbers' plan. Just as the second man was about to turn back toward the engine, the robbers emerged from the bushes and overpowered him. Some robbers climbed up both sides of the engine and tried to seize the driver. When Jack Mills resisted, a robber hit him on the head with an iron rod, and he fell unconscious right in the driving seat. The robbers had come with full planning. While this commotion was happening in the engine, some team members detached the first 2 carriages from the rest of the train. Their plan was to take the train far away from there, but where to? About 1 kilometer away from Sears Crossing was the Glasgow Bridge, and the robbers' truck was parked right there. They had brought a retired railway driver with them, whose job was to take the train to Glasgow Bridge. Everything that happened up to this point was according to the plan, but now the robbers faced their first trouble. The driver they had brought along got panicked seeing the controls of this new engine, because he had never operated such an engine before. Forced by the situation, the robbers tried to bring Jack Mills to his senses and compelled him to drive the train 1 kilometer further. Now the engine and the 2 carriages started moving again and were stopped at Glasgow Bridge, 1 kilometer away. During this, the staff in the remaining carriages left behind had no idea why the train had stopped. Upon reaching Glasgow Bridge, the robbers broke the door of the HVP carriage, entered inside, caused significant injuries to 5 staff members, tied them up face down with ropes, and began their operation. In the HVP carriage, there were a total of 128 bags stuffed with cash. These were £1, £5, and 10-shilling notes. Their total weight was nearly 2.5 tons. The train was on the bridge, and a truck was parked on the road below. According to the robbers' plan, they had only 15 minutes. Therefore, they formed a human chain and loaded 120 out of the 128 bags into the truck. The remaining 8 bags were left behind due to the lack of time. Their plan had worked perfectly, but in the end, just one mistake was made, which later proved most helpful in getting them caught. While leaving, a robber told the staff tied up in the HVP carriage not to try to get up from there for 30 minutes, otherwise their lives. The robbers had an Austin Lodestar truck in which all the cash was loaded, and they also had 2 Land Rovers on which they had placed the same number plate, BMG 757A, to mislead witnesses. After the incident, they all fled from there. After a drive of approximately 45 minutes, at 4:30 a.m., they reached their hideout, which was near a village named Oakley, about 43 kilometers away from the scene of the crime. During this time, they were also listening to police conversations on a VHF radio, which was helping them significantly. Exactly at the time they reached their hideout, the police also became aware of this robbery. But for the time being, they were very happy. They enjoyed themselves at the hideout, and even played a Monopoly game there, using real banknotes. But this happiness of theirs lasted only for a few minutes. Shortly after, they found out through the radio that the police were searching for them within a 50-kilometer radius. The police got the idea of the 50-kilometer radius because of the statement of the staff to whom the robbers had said, "Don't move for half an hour before fleeing." So the police had a good idea that they would be within a 50-kilometer radius within half an hour. Hearing this, the robbers panicked. Now their plan to leave the hideout, which was scheduled for Sunday, was shifted to Friday. On Thursday, they distributed all the money among themselves. The looted amount was nearly £2.5 million. According to some reports, each person received £150,000, which was a huge amount at that time. That is, in today's terms, each person's share was £3.9 million. They distributed the remaining money among helpers who played small roles. Before Friday, They wiped their fingerprints off everything in the hideout and assigned one person the duty to burn down the hideout after they left, so that the police wouldn't find any evidence. He took the money but fled without burning the hideout. Meanwhile, the police were searching for them throughout the Buckinghamshire area. Helicopters were flying over the city. Police vehicles were racing everywhere, and there was an uproar in the national media. The police also announced a reward of £10,000 for anyone providing information. Upon this, a person living near the hideout came forward and informed the police that there was a lot of activity here on the morning of August 8th. Based on suspicion, the police immediately raided the hideout. This was Leatherslade Farmhouse, which the robbers had rented 3 months prior. There, the police found many pieces of evidence linked to this robbery, such as empty bags, mail, and a truck that had been hastily painted yellow. The robbers had wiped their fingerprints before leaving, but some fingerprints were present on that Monopoly game, which they had played with real money. These fingerprints proved to be a major breakthrough in the case, because they all had some prior criminal record. So those fingerprints matched the records of the police in Scotland Yard, and the actual culprits were identified. Within a few days, the police arrested 14 out of 16 people. Only 2 people managed to escape the police, one of whom was a replacement train driver whose real name no one knew, and the other was that senior security officer of the Royal Mail, on whose tip this entire plan was made. To this day, nothing is known about that officer, because he never showed his real face nor revealed his name. The court declared this robbery the biggest robbery of the century, and sentenced almost all members of this gang to 30 years in prison. After this robbery, Bridego Bridge became famous as Train Robbers Bridge, and to this day, it is its new and formal name. Jack Mills, the 58-year-old train driver, could never do this job again due to the head injury, and passed away 7 years later due to the trauma. Hopefully, you will also like and share this video.